Hello everyone, welcome to another discussion about this very important pattern stemming from the direct 3-3 invasion against the star point. In the previous videos we talked about this very basic shape, the number 13 and 15. But in this video, let's talk about what if black wants to trigger a fight. And the way to trigger it is very easy. You simply cut here, it's also an Atari move. White must extend, black crawls one more time, white extends again, and black extends in number 17. And this will lead to rather complicated variations. So now, number 13 and 17 are isolated on the outside. Black has the corner, but the corner, as we discussed before, still has major weaknesses. And these 6 white stones are cut in 2 groups. And both of these groups will have to scramble. And this is why this fight is going to be quite complicated. One thing to note is that we're playing out this pattern when there are no reinforcements near this quadrant of the board. Let's say if white already has reinforcement on the left side, then maybe it is not a good idea for black to cut and trigger this fight, because white already has reinforcement on the left side. And the same goes with black. If, let's say, black already has a stone on the left side or the upper side, something like this, then this fight will turn out very differently, right? So number 13 is actually putting some pressure already on these 3 stones, and it will really limit how the fight will play out for white. So if you're white in the situation, you need to be careful, because oftentimes black will not just opt for the peaceful way to settle the shape. Right? If you're not careful and you have no reinforcements anywhere near these 4 white stones, then black might be able to trigger this fight by cutting here instead. Right? So this is something that amateur players need to watch out for, because oftentimes we teach beginners and amateur players that you can leave this pattern as white and black. But actually, if you leave it for too long, and if black has reinforcements near the corner, then black can trigger this fight, and white might be in trouble. So let's talk about how this pattern will play out when there are no reinforcement on either side. But please keep in mind that in games, this might be different. And if you're white and if you feel threatened by black, just play any other Josek that we already talked about, whether extending here or switching to the upper side. In this case, you may not want to switch to the upper side because there's already number 13 here. But still, right, there are other options that we talked about, including double hane, right? We want to keep building on the left side, then of course the extension. So what if black cuts here? And it's very important to note that after this exchange, black needs to crawl here one more time. Because after number 14, if you extend here first without crawling, then number 16 is kind of a sente, right? It doesn't kill the corner, but it makes black very painful. If black connects here, which is not the optimal move, white has this exchange, which really solidifies this group on the left. And black still needs another move just to stay alive. And now all of a sudden, white has the upper hand in this fight because 18 and 20 really reinforced this group on the left. And it's very hard for black, or it's impossible for black, to limit white's breakout into the left side. Right? So you cannot enclose white very easily. White will always be able to build a base here, or if you play on the 3rd line, then white can break out very, very easily. So this is why number 17 is not okay. But if you play this way, which is slightly better, still doesn't work. So again, the group on the left is mostly settled. After number 20, black cannot enclose it very easily. And black will have to play on the upper side here, right? You cannot just save number 11, that's too small. Once again, 13 and 15 are in trouble. So the best you can do is play something on the upper side. But white will have this captured in sente, right? As this corner is still not 100% alive, black still owes a move here at the 2-1 point. If you don't play it, then white will be able to kill black very easily by simply reducing black's ice base. Right? So this is going to be a big headache for black, because after capturing this 1 stone here, White is mostly alive. It's very easy for white to make a living shape here, right? So it's not going to be a good result for black when white already settles a group so easily. The idea for black is to trigger the fight and make sure that white does not get a living shape on either of these groups. So that's why you need to crawl here once more, and white can only extend, right? White cannot carry it this way because black can still come out into the third line very easily, right? Here on the upper side, if you play a number 16, right? This simply doesn't work in white's favor. So white's only move is this extension. And of course, black will have to extend. If it's not, then white might be able to capture number 13 on the ladder, and white will have the upper hand here. So black must extend here, and this is basically where the complications begin, right? This is where, if no one teaches you how to proceed, you might be a little confused, especially as white, because black already has the corner, and black has these two stones on the outside, just a relatively simple pattern. But what do you do as white in this situation? We have two groups, 3 stones each, and neither seems that great. They're both a little short on liberties. That's the first thing you should notice. And it's very hard to put any pressure on number 13 and 17, right? You can't enclose it very easily. You can't really pincer it or do anything with it, right? But of course, there's a weakness in the corner that we talked about already here on this channel. And that is triggering this code, potentially, right? Here on the corner. So that's always an option, but you trigger this option when these 3 stones on the left are under pressure or in danger, right? That's when you trigger it. Because this option always allows you to just sacrifice these 3 stones in exchange for a base here on the upper side by capturing these 2 black stones instead, right? So you've got options here on the corner if you've been following my videos in order. But even if you don't know that, it's okay. We'll talk about other moves that do not involve the code. So there are 2 key moves for whites in this situation. You might be thinking about all kinds of moves, right? If you're not taught how to play this, you might be thinking about extending on the upper side, right? These are the basic moves that we teach beginners to do, but these are not necessarily the optimal moves in this situation. So there are 2 very key moves. One is this jump, and the second is this hunting. And of course, black will have to block here at the 2-2 point. So play this exchange is also very important. And one of the potential follow-ups, of course, is this tiger snuff, which we've already seen in some of these other patterns before. So let's talk about this jump first. This jump is necessary when white does not have any reinforcement on the upper side or upper right. So this is probably the optimal move. But of course, this move has trade-offs, and that means black will have an opportunity to put pressure on these 3 stones on the left. And how does black do that? There are a few options. The easy option is simply to play on top, right? Something like this. And this should be okay for both sides. White is settled, and black is on top, and black is a very good shape, right? So this can be considered a Joseki, but there are some of these other moves. The optimal move, according to AI at this point, it's actually this one. So why? Very hard to explain, right? It depends. It really depends on how things play out. And each of these moves are going to lead to very, very different outcomes, right? Only few spaces apart, but they're very, very, very different. So the optimal move is right here, something you can remember for now, but once the fights get complicated, it's going to be hard to remember, right? So that's why I'm not going to cover every variation in this video, but if you're curious, you can install your own AI program and do some research on your own. So again, the key move here is for white to get to this exchange first. And you always have this cut, right? Which is to trigger the code. But what if white doesn't want the code? What should it do? And the correct move is actually right here. So this is not very intuitive, right? Because after number 19, we'll be thinking about this move, which will guarantee that white can break out. But this is actually not great for whites, because black will simply sacrifice number 19 this way. And even if white gets to play this Hane, doesn't really matter in this situation. Black will enclose white this way. White lives, but black has sente on the outside, and black's shape on the outside is actually not bad at all. So this favors black. The difference here is that number 22 actually puts more pressure on black. If black plays here, now white can break out. And this is very hard for black to contain. And black will be split into two more groups, right, here on the outside. So black will have to play 23. And now white has this clamping move, which will make things complicated. So if black pushes this way, then white will have to Atari here and make this eye. Right? You cannot capture these three stones because black can capture first. This is not going to work for white. So white will have to view this eye. Black will have this Atari. Again, white cannot play on the outside. This will be Atari and white will be killed. So white must connect here. Now white has 4 liberties, black has 3. Black will have to take care of number 24 with this net, right? So number 24 is killed, and white will need to make an extra rear eye here on the left side. So 32 right here. And in this situation, when the board is empty on the left side, black will have to play this jump. You cannot play this hane, hoping white will make a living shape because white can cut, and this will lead to very complicated fights that will likely favor white. So this is not going to work for black in this situation. So you have to jump, and white will play another move here. Black can either take sente or try to take care of this cutting point. So this is how one variation might play out, and this is about even. Another option is simply for black to actually give up 13 and 17 and view the wall on the outside instead. So white will play something like this, and black will have to prevent white from coming into the corner. Black plays here, and white will live very easily. And 32 right here is sente, threatening to kill black. So black still owes a move on the inside. So 32, 33 benefits white significantly. So this is not something black wants. So black will probably just play the Atari here and allow white to take 13 and 17. There are some follow-up moves that black can play, like capturing this stone. And this is really threatening to push here at number 31, right? White cannot come in this way. So white will have to connect here. And of course, black has another move. And if white connects, that'll be too slow. Black can connect here on the first line, which is a good idea. And white is still not 100% alive. So if black gets to this point, white will probably have to counterattack by triggering this code. And how does this code play out? White might want to try to capture number 31 as well. So it might get a little complicated here at the end. But the idea is for black to give up these 2 stones. Black takes the corner, and black gets a little something on the outside. So it's another complicated pattern. And I think that's all I'll cover about number 19. Quite complicated, but I'm happy to answer any questions. Other moves are not as harsh. We saw this move, right? Not as harsh. White can just come out very easily. Play something like this, then again, white will have this move. Black will have to play the Atari on the first line, and white can move out very easily. So number 19 is not doing much. It's really trying to make close white, but after 20, 22, and 24, white is getting out with no problem. Another move, of course, is for black to play here on the right side, this attachment. And the idea, of course, is to build something here to reinforce it, and then you play number 23. This will be much harsher, and white might be in trouble. So that's why white will have to ignore this and play on the left side instead. Get to these 2 key points and get out, right? This will be 20, 22, and 24. That's the correct shape for white. And white is not really scared of black at this moment. Black will probably have this hane. At this point, it doesn't really work because white can actually bump here and cut. So black might want to play something like this, right? You play an exchange here in preparation, and then you have this move, which is a good move. But white will have all kinds of moves to extend on the upper side. So this should be okay for whites. Losing the stone, black is reinforced, but white should be able to view the base here on the upper side. So this is also playable for both sides. So I think that's mostly it, actually. Many of these complications we talked about in this video are quite complicated. So if you want to know more, the best way to do that is to use an AI program and see what AI suggests when the fight develops further. It's very hard to cover all the variations in a single teaching video, but if you're interested, definitely go for it and figure out for yourself what the best moves are. As always, if you have any questions, please let me know in the comment section below. Good luck, and thank you for watching.